At 80 years old, Burt Lancaster, one of Hollywood's most iconic leading men, began sharing personal reflections that had remained private for much of his life. His journey was filled with passion, love, and moments he chose to keep out of the spotlight. Among these were connections with well-known figures from the golden age of cinema, stories that added new depth to his legacy. This is not a simple story. It's one that explores the life of a complex man, his rise to stardom, the groundbreaking roles that defined his career, and the private moments that shaped him away from the camera. As we revisit his life, we'll uncover not only the career of a legendary actor, but also the quieter truths he carried. Burt Lancaster was born on November 2, 1913, in Harlem, New York. His full name was Burton Stephen Lancaster, and he was raised in a working-class household. Growing up in the vibrant yet demanding environment of early 20th century Harlem, Burt learned resilience and determination from a young age. Despite limited means, his family always encouraged their children to dream big and pursue meaningful lives. Burt stood out early in life, not just for his strong physical abilities, but for his vibrant energy and enthusiasm. Rather than follow a traditional path through school, he found joy in athletics and live performance. He joined the circus as a young man, where he trained in acrobatics and performed in front of large crowds. This experience helped him build not only strength and confidence, but also a unique stage presence that would later become part of his identity as a screen actor. His time in the circus wasn't just a chapter in his youth, it laid the foundation for how he approached acting. Burt became known for doing his own stunts, displaying agility, power, and charisma that captivated audiences. He didn't just act in a role, he embodied it physically and emotionally. This dedication became a defining feature of his performances and helped him stand out in an era full of larger-than-life stars. Burt's film career began in the 1940s when Hollywood took notice of his commanding presence. At over 6 feet tall with striking features and intense eyes, he quickly became a natural fit for strong, leading man roles. But Burt wanted more than just recognition for his appearance. He was determined to be taken seriously as a dramatic actor, someone who could portray layered, meaningful characters. His breakout role came in The Killers, 1946, based on a short story by Ernest Hemingway. In the film, he played a former boxer trapped by circumstance, a performance that established him as a rising star. The Killers marked a turning point in Burt Lancaster's career. It wasn't just his introduction to moviegoers, it was a bold statement about the kind of actor he intended to be. Rather than settle into one-dimensional hero roles, Burt sought out characters with internal struggles, moral complexity, and emotional depth. His portrayal of the troubled Swede resonated with both audiences and critics, who saw in him the rare combination of physical strength and vulnerability. Following his breakout, Burt continued to challenge himself with a wide variety of roles. But he also wanted more control over the kinds of stories being told. In the 1950s, at a time when most actors had little influence behind the scenes, he co-founded a production company, Hecht Hill Lancaster, with partners Harold Hecht and James Hill. This bold move gave him the freedom to choose meaningful projects and tell stories that weren't bound by studio expectations. The decision to start a production company was groundbreaking. During this era, major studios like MGM and Warner Brothers dominated Hollywood, controlling every stage of filmmaking. Most actors had little say over which roles they played or what films they appeared in. But Burt sought independence. He wanted to champion stories that inspired audiences, explored real human experiences, and left a lasting impact, not just visually but emotionally. Among the projects produced by Burt's company was Marty, 1955, a quiet and heartfelt film about an ordinary man searching for connection. Unlike the glamorous or action-packed stories popular at the time, Marty focused on everyday life and emotions. Its simplicity struck a chord with audiences, earning widespread praise and ultimately winning the Academy Award for Best Picture. For Burt, this success was a validation of his belief that smaller, sincere stories could resonate deeply. Another standout production was Separate Tables, 1958, a film that delved into the complexities of human relationships and personal struggles. With a strong cast and thoughtful writing, it explored themes of loneliness, identity, and social expectations. The film further cemented Burt's status not just as a celebrated actor, but also as a forward-thinking producer, one who valued substance over spectacle. If one role defined Burt Lancaster's on-screen legacy, it was his portrayal of Sergeant Milton Warden in From Here to Eternity, 1953. Set against the backdrop of World War II, the film told a story of duty, conflict, and forbidden love. One of its most iconic scenes, Burt and Deborah Kerr embracing as waves crashed over them on a Hawaiian beach, became a timeless image in cinema history. Their chemistry brought raw emotion to the screen, leaving a lasting impression on viewers around the world. The success of From Here to Eternity was monumental. The film received 8 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, and showcased Burt's ability to convey deep, authentic emotion. His performance as a conflicted soldier struck a balance between strength and sensitivity, qualities that became hallmarks of his career. Though the romance was fictional, the sincerity in the performances helped make the story unforgettable for generations of viewers. Burt's talent continued to shine throughout the 1960s. In 1960, he won his first Oscar for Elmer Gantry, portraying a charismatic yet morally complex former salesman turned preacher. The role demanded intensity and nuance, and Burt delivered a performance full of energy and emotional layers. Just 2 years later, he received another Oscar, this time for Birdman of Alcatraz, 1962, in which he portrayed Robert Stroud, a prisoner who transformed himself into an expert on birds. The film revealed a more contemplative, gentle side of Burt, further proving his remarkable range. What made these performances so compelling was Burt's total commitment to each character. He didn't just play a role, he immersed himself in it, bringing depth and humanity to every scene. Whether portraying a man of faith, a reformer behind prison walls, or a troubled soul seeking redemption, Burt invited audiences to feel every emotion. These roles weren't just acting milestones, they were reflections of Burt's dedication to truth in storytelling. These career-defining roles highlighted Burt Lancaster's fearless approach to acting. He wasn't interested in repeating the same type of character or playing it safe. Instead, he sought out roles that showed vulnerability, internal conflict, and growth. Audiences connected with him not just because he was a star, but because he brought honesty and emotional complexity to every performance. He reminded viewers that strength could coexist with tenderness. Even as the film industry evolved in the 1970s and beyond, Burt continued to challenge himself. In The Swimmer, 1968, he took on a surreal and introspective role that pushed narrative boundaries. Later, in Atlantic City, 1980, he portrayed an aging gambler looking for purpose in a changing world. The role earned him another Academy Award nomination and proved that his talent remained as powerful as ever. These later performances showed Burt's continued curiosity about human nature and his refusal to settle into predictability. Beyond his work on screen, Burt was known for his strong personal values. In a time when many actors avoided speaking on public issues, he was active in causes he believed in. He supported the civil rights movement and used his platform to promote fairness and equality. One meaningful moment came when he and his second wife, Norma Anderson, hosted a fundraiser for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. ahead of the 1963 March on Washington, an event that reflected Burt's sense of justice and his willingness to support progress. Burt Lancaster's commitment to justice extended beyond public events. He was a strong supporter of artists' rights and labor unions within the film industry, advocating for fair treatment and creative independence. To him, storytelling and advocacy were connected. Both had the power to shape hearts and minds. His willingness to take a stand, even when it wasn't popular, made him not just a Hollywood figure, but a voice of conscience during turbulent times. His personal life was just as layered as his professional one. Burt was married 3 times and had 5 children. His first marriage was to June Ernst, a skilled trapeze artist whom he met while performing in the circus. They shared a love for performance and the stage, but life on the road came with challenges. Constant travel, financial demands, and the unpredictability of the entertainment world eventually placed strain on their relationship, and they parted ways in the late 1930s. The exact timeline remains unclear, with different sources offering varying accounts. Following his first marriage, Burt met Norma Anderson during World War II. Norma, who stepped in as a last-minute performer during a USO show in Italy, reportedly caught Burt's attention immediately. According to some accounts, she asked about him right away, leading to an introduction that sparked a lasting relationship. They married in 1946 and had 5 children together: Bill, James, Susan, Joanna, and Sheila, also known as Sigel. Their shared interest in advocacy and social causes created a strong bond between them for many years. Norma was not only Burt's partner but also an active voice in social advocacy. She was deeply involved with organizations like the League of Women Voters and the NAACP, often working from their home to support civic engagement and voting rights. Together, she and Burt hosted events that brought attention to important social issues, including the previously mentioned fundraiser for Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Their home life reflected a shared passion for justice, though like many long-term relationships, theirs faced its own difficulties over time. The pressures of Hollywood, Burt's demanding career, and the distance created by travel eventually led to challenges in their marriage. They separated in 1966 and finalized their divorce in 1969. Around this time, Burt reportedly began a new relationship with Jackie Bone, a hairdresser he met on the set of The Professionals. Their time together was known to be emotionally intense, filled with moments of connection and conflict, and it became the subject of conversation within entertainment circles. According to accounts, their relationship ended when personal beliefs and life directions began to differ. Later in life, Burt found companionship in a quieter, more settled relationship. In 1990, he married Susan Martin, who remained by his side during his final years. Their time together was more private, offering Burt a sense of peace and stability after a life lived largely in the public eye. As Burt faced health challenges, including recurring heart issues, Susan's presence reportedly brought him comfort. He passed away on October 20, 1994, at the age of 80, in his Century City apartment in Los Angeles. As his life neared its end, Burt Lancaster began opening up about personal experiences that had remained private for decades. In conversations with trusted friends, he reportedly shared reflections on past relationships that had never been made public. These stories, shared later in life, offered a more complete and human picture of a man who had spent much of his career under the spotlight, yet kept many aspects of himself hidden. During the golden age of Hollywood, public perception was tightly managed, and personal matters were often kept private to protect careers. According to some accounts, Burt formed deep connections with several prominent men in the industry, relationships he chose to keep confidential due to the cultural climate of the time. These revelations, shared in confidence, were not made to shock but rather to express the emotional truths he had carried for years. One such connection was reportedly with Cary Grant, one of Hollywood's most beloved actors. They are said to have met in the late 1940s and shared a brief, meaningful relationship, spending time together away from public view. According to those close to Burt, this bond left a lasting impression on him. Cary Grant, known for his charm and elegance, remained someone Burt spoke of with fondness, remembering their time together as a private yet emotionally significant chapter in his life. Another connection, more unusual in nature, was reportedly with J. Edgar Hoover, the longtime director of the FBI. While Hoover was not part of the film industry, he held considerable influence over American media and culture during his tenure. According to some accounts, Burt and Hoover met at a Washington, D.C. charity event attended by both Hollywood figures and political leaders. Their relationship was described as complex, rooted more in companionship and shared conversations than anything traditionally romantic. Burt is said to have described Hoover as a man searching for connection while also wrestling with the weight of his public responsibilities. These moments reportedly gave Burt a rare perspective on someone who was both powerful and guarded. Though he rarely spoke about this relationship, the few details he did share pointed to a bond shaped by mutual understanding and the need for discretion in an era when privacy was paramount. One of the most emotional stories Burt reportedly shared involved actor Rock Hudson. They met in the early 1950s during the height of both their careers. According to close friends, they shared a deep and affectionate connection, spending time together in secluded places where they could avoid the public eye. Rock Hudson, who would later become one of the most talked-about figures in Hollywood history, reportedly left a strong impression on Burt. Their relationship, as described, was defined by tenderness and mutual respect, though it ultimately came to an end as both navigated the challenges of fame and societal expectations. Burt reportedly remembered Rock Hudson with deep admiration and compassion. According to those who knew him, he often spoke of Rock as a kind and gentle person who longed for a life lived more openly, but who also understood the limitations placed on him by the public eye. Their time together, while ultimately brief, was said to have left a lasting emotional impact on Burt. He remembered their moments not with regret, but with quiet respect and empathy for what both men faced during that era. Another connection Burt reportedly shared was with Ricky Nelson, a well-known performer who rose to fame as a teen star in the 1950s and 60s. According to some accounts, they met during a transitional period in Ricky's life as he worked to shift from youthful roles to a more mature image. Their relationship, while brief, was described by Burt as meaningful, particularly for Ricky, who found a sense of support and mentorship in Burt's presence. Burt reportedly chose to step away, believing that Ricky needed time and space to grow into his own identity, both personally and professionally. Perhaps the most complex and intense connection Burt spoke of was with fellow actor Marlon Brando. According to those familiar with Burt's later reflections, their relationship was passionate and challenging, shaped by both men's strong personalities and differing worldviews. They met in the late 1950s, already established as major stars. While their bond reportedly included moments of deep emotional connection, it was also marked by differences that eventually led them to part ways. Despite that, Burt is said to have spoken of Marlon with lasting admiration, crediting him for pushing him intellectually and emotionally in ways few others could. These personal reflections, shared by Burt Lancaster in his later years, reveal a deeply human side of a man often seen only through the lens of fame and film. Behind the powerful screen presence and public image was someone who experienced love, connection, and self-discovery in deeply personal ways. Burt didn't share these stories to cause controversy or attract attention. According to those close to him, he hoped that by speaking honestly, even late in life, he might find a sense of peace and perhaps help others feel seen in their own journeys. He passed away on October 20th, 1994, at the age of 80 in his Los Angeles home. In keeping with his wishes, there was no formal memorial service. His ashes were scattered beneath a large oak tree in Westwood Memorial Park in California, with a simple plaque bearing his name and dates. Though he chose a quiet farewell, his legacy continues to speak volumes through the films he made, the values he stood for, and the stories he helped bring into the light. Burt Lancaster's life was one of complexity, courage, and creativity. He was a gifted performer, a visionary producer, a passionate advocate, and a man who carried his truth through changing times. By embracing challenging roles and standing up for what he believed in, he left a mark not only on cinema, but also on the hearts of those who saw the humanity behind the star. His story reminds us that even the most iconic figures are shaped by love, longing, and the quiet search to live authentically. Burt Lancaster's story continues to inspire not just because of the roles he played, but because of the way he lived, with intensity, thoughtfulness, and a desire to grow. He wasn't afraid to evolve, whether that meant stepping into a new kind of character, founding his own production company, or standing up for justice in an industry where silence was often safer. He proved that success doesn't have to come at the cost of one's convictions, and that art can be a vehicle for both entertainment and truth. In many ways, Burt's life reflected the story of a generation of actors who lived between the old and the new, between tradition and change. He began in an era of rigid studio control and cultural restraint, but found a way to carve his own path. By the end of his career, he had become not only a celebrated actor, but a symbol of creative independence and integrity. He showed that personal growth could mirror professional achievement, and that both could be shaped by courage. What makes Burt's story so powerful today is its relevance. As our culture continues to embrace authenticity and transparency, stories like his remind us how far we've come and how important it is to keep going. He lived much of his life in a time when being open about personal truths came with real risks. And yet, through quiet revelations and a lifetime of nuanced performances, he managed to share who he was, both on screen and eventually off. For fans, fellow actors, and anyone drawn to the world of film, Burt Lancaster remains a towering figure. His work spans decades, genres, and emotional tones, offering something for everyone, from classic romance to gritty drama, from historical epics to thought-provoking indie projects. Each performance holds a piece of the man himself, his energy, his drive, and his search for meaning. There's a lesson in Burt's journey for all of us. It's that greatness isn't about perfection. It's about honesty, depth, and the willingness to keep growing, even when the world expects you to stand still. Burt Lancaster didn't just play heroes, he became one in his own quiet, enduring way. His life invites us to honor the stories we carry and to tell them when we're ready, knowing they can matter to someone else. As we look back on his legacy, we don't just see a film legend. We see a man who lived fully, embraced complexity, and never stopped seeking truth through his art. Burt Lancaster may be gone, but his presence still echoes in every performance, every story, and every heart moved by the power of cinema. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the remarkable life of Burt Lancaster. If a story moved you, made you reflect, or simply brought a new perspective on a Hollywood legend, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you have a favorite Burt Lancaster film? Were there moments in his life that surprised or inspired you? Share your reflections in the comments. Your voice adds depth to the conversation. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss future stories about the legends of film, forgotten truths, and the lives behind the spotlight. There's so much more to uncover, and I can't wait to explore it with you. Until next time, take care and keep honoring the stories that deserve to be remembered.